My title is A Church Perspective on how to position our work, that's the work of the professionals, in the context of the memorandum. And the first thing to realise, I think, is that there are two streams of therapeutic work available to a client who would like help in reducing same-sex attraction. There's the professionally mediated therapy that we've heard about, and there's also para-church or church-based activities. And it's easy to forget this division, but it is an important one, because it's the professionally trained therapists who are being targeted by the Memorandum of Understanding. Perhaps the powers that be assume that demand for change therapy will fizzle out when the professionals are all dragooned into offering only gay affirmative therapy. But I don't think this is very likely. Indeed, I think the opposite is likely to happen. When people who want help to reduce same-sex attraction are turned away by the professionals, they'll turn in greater numbers to church-based ministries. And I'm tempted to anticipate and to fear that churches which offer such ministries are likely to be targeted by activists in the future. But I'm not going to go there today because I've taken my title to mean how should the professionals position their work. Now, in principle, the work of the professionals in this field will dry up. In a sense, there'll be nothing left to position. But for the sake of science and of society, the professionals need to organize themselves to push back against this unjustified tyranny. Part of the fight will be by demanding evidence, and we've touched on this already. Evidence of harm and evidence that therapy doesn't work. Now, we know that this evidence doesn't exist, and the professionals should shout this from the rooftops and should equip the churches to ask questions. We need to use arguments that reach into the heart as well as into the head. The one I keep coming back to is the married man or woman with children who wants help to reduce same-sex attraction. And this example is very powerful because it's clearly a good cause. The married man example spikes the guns of the opposition very effectively because their doctrine is that gay is good and that therefore to try to change is bad. But nobody can say that a married man's desire to reduce his same-sex attraction is bad. He wants to hold his family together, that's good. Last Thursday, Dr. Joseph Nicolosi was on Newsnight on the Obama announcement. He defended himself by saying, "We help people to be who they want to be." And his opponent, Dr. Jessens, jumped up and he said, "No, you help people to be what society wants them to be." And he didn't answer that, or perhaps didn't have an opportunity, but it's not an arrogant statement. But if he had said, "Here's a married man, we help this man to stay with his wife and kids," then the other argument would have fallen flat completely. So how can the professionals work more closely with the churches? Surely they must take on an educative role. Sadly, the churches don't have the skills to stand up against the gay lobby at present. The professionals need to educate them to understand what's at stake, that what's at stake here is not that James loves John, and therefore why should they not be allowed to marry? What's at stake is about replacing one worldview, the worldview that we've grown up with something quite different. The Memorandum of Understanding states that, and I quote, "The aim of the commitments contained in this MOU is to ensure that the public are well informed about the evidence and risks of conversion therapy." Now, we've got to take them up on this. They want to give us evidence about the risks and they want to inform us about the evidence and risks. We want a science that's free of ideology. We want a science that's based on evidence. Are they now offering to show us evidence of the claimed risks and ineffectiveness? If they are, why have they refused to share it with us, despite our repeated demands? And what do they make of the statement of the American Psychological Association that, and I quote, "There are no scientifically rigorous studies of recent sexual orientation change efforts that would enable us to make a definitive statement about whether recent SOCE is safe or harmful, and for whom." In other words, there's no evidence to justify banning these therapies. So although they insist that their science is evidence-based, the new science is not based on evidence, but on ideology. Now, the UKCP is a classic case that Peter has just referred to. Because a couple of years ago, I asked their chief executive, Mr. David Pink, where I might find the, quote, "overwhelming evidence" that they claim of harm. And I received a polite reply, but no answer to my question. So the UKCP has declined to offer any evidence in support of its contention that therapy to reduce same-sex attractions is harmful. And it's the UKCP that has pulled together this Memorandum of Understanding document. Then, just remember that I'm going to put 4 fingers up one after the other. First of all, no evidence was offered. Secondly, Dr. Di Hodgson, the chair of the UKCP's Diversity and Social Responsibility Committee, incautiously admitted on Radio 4, "I think there's very conflicting evidence." So we, she says, have taken a view in a way which is regardless of the scientific findings. We still believe that it is unethical to agree to or work towards changing someone's sexual orientation through psychotherapy. So the UKCP says, first, there's overwhelming evidence. Then it declines to specify any evidence. Then it says there's conflicting evidence. And then it says, we've taken a position that doesn't require any evidence. Now, anybody with a scientific understanding should shudder at such a notion. Every thinking person should wake up. The churches need to press the UKCP and other professional bodies very hard on this point. Their position is anti-science, but the churches won't do this unless the professionals give them some backbone. So I'm going to close now with reminding you of 4 points that I've made. One final point for the professionals to emphasize is that the memorandum will create a situation similar, sadly, to backstreet abortions, where therapists will emerge to meet the client demand because the client demand will surely not go away. This can't be good. So the memorandum, arguably, will increase rather than reduce the risk of harm. So my 4 key points: use a family man or a similar practical example to educate the churches. 2, help the churches to realize that this is not about James and John. It's about taking on a whole new worldview. 3, challenge the mental health professional bodies to produce their evidence of harm and ineffectiveness, which the APA couldn't find. And 4th, warn of the backstreet abortion risks. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.